Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to another video discussing the Paleozoic Link-2 monster. So in the previous video I went over what the card does and what it basically means for the deck and some sort of combos you can do, just like basically me brainstorming. I only made that video in the first 10 minutes of me knowing of this card's existence, so I have had basically all day to come up with some little combos with this card. And a lot of people were saying that this card isn't very good because it's really hard to summon. I mean, you have to put two Paleozoic Link monsters, or sorry, not Link monsters, but trap monsters on the field. So effectively, you have to have three cards to do it. You have to have a Paleo Trap, two Paleo Traps, and any other trap card that can also be a Paleo Trap. And so it's kind of hard to kind of get those monsters on the field. So I understand that that is pretty situational. However, a copy of Paleozoic Morella as well as a copy of Trap Trick does get you the job done. So I'll showcase that really quick. So basically what you can do is you just, on your opponent's turn, use this copy of Morella and you send any Paleozoic trap from your deck to the graveyard. In this case, you can send like Canadia, and then they go to the graveyard. A really nice thing about this is that it plays around evenly matched because they can just banish everything else, you don't care, and you can just leave the trap trick and you can still play, which is absolutely insane. So then on their end phase, use the trap trick, you chain this copy of Morella, and then you use the trap trick to set, obviously you can set like an Olenotes if they set back row, if they set a monster you can set Dynamiscus, etc. So in this situation I'm just going to set another copy of Morella because it's obviously the easiest one to trigger. So then on still in the end phase, you activate this copy of Morella, then chain your Canadian, then you have your two Paleo monsters, or not Xyz monsters, but trap monsters to turn into the Xyz monster, and then you can just go ahead, obviously like I said earlier, you can make this copy of the Opabina, and then you can use this Opabina's effect to go ahead and detach and search for any Paleozoic trap. Olenoides or Dynamiscus to deal with another threat is really nice. Also, I do want to showcase like Leanchoilia a little bit in this deck because it's also like an easy Paleozoic trap activation. Obviously then you can activate this card and then chain a Paleozoic Engrave, and then from here you can obviously just go ahead and banish this and link this off into your Paleozoic Link monster. So that's a really easy way to get into the Link monster. Then at this point you can obviously use the other effects, but I went into that more in depth in the previous video, so I'm not really going to show that in this video entirely. But in this video I did want to showcase basically what the Swap Frog, like generally like the Frog engine, can do, because having like Swap Frog and a Paleo monster is actually insane now. On your turn, you can obviously use the Swap Frog effect to send the Ronin Totem from your deck to the graveyard, and then use its effect to bounce it back to your hand. And then this, obviously you can just set like your cards here, and normally this wasn't like super good. I mean, it was fine because then on the following turn you can use your Swap Frog, send another frog, and then you have Toad, but that's like, you know, that's okay, that's not really that big of a deal. But in this situation it actually makes it so much better, because then on your turn you can go ahead and activate Morella. Obviously this can be any Paleozoic card, so in this situation I'm just gonna send like this copy of, I don't know, evenly matched is fine. We're just going to send that to the graveyard just to showcase that this can be any Paleozoic card. It doesn't have to be Morella. Then during the end phase of the turn, you can go ahead and activate the Trap Trick and then chain the Paleozoic monster in the graveyard. And then your Trap Trick can set any Paleozoic card. In this case, I'm going to set another copy of Morella because it's the easiest one to trigger. So obviously, you probably don't want to do the Morella. You most likely want to do a copy of Dynamiscus or a copy of Olenotes to clear another back row. But then on your turn, you just draw for turn. In this case, I'm not drawing because it's not necessary for the combo. Obviously, it will be necessary because you will need like a discard for Unicorn, but we'll get to that later. So then you can normal summon your Swap Frog that you had from the previous turn and send the Swap Frog from the deck to the grave. And then you can use the effect of your Ronin Totem to banish the Swap Frog and special it back from the graveyard. And then you can use it as material with this copy of Morella into this copy of Opabina. And then you can use the effect of Opabina that while it has a trap card as Xyz material, you can detach a trap and then search for this in this case, you probably want to search for Leanchoilia because this card can actually really help you extend, because what's really nice here is that you can actually activate it and target this copy of Swap Frog, return it back to the graveyard, and that's going to fuel your Ronin Totem even further. So that's really nice. Then you can bring back this copy of Morella, and then the Leanchoilia resolves sending the Swap Frog back to the graveyard, and then obviously you can just link these two off into your copy of the Paleozoic Link-2. So what's really nice here is then you can use your Paleozoic Link-2 to send one of your opponent's back row to the graveyard to get rid of yet another threat, or obviously you can target your own back row. And then in this case, if you target your own back row, you'd like to chain your copy of Morella. Like, I won't do it in this specific case because it's unnecessary. We have enough extenders anyways. But obviously, if you're in a real game, you would definitely want to chain your copy of Morella here. But in this case, we're going to let it resolve where we don't really care about like the extra extender. And we can set yet another copy of Leanchoilia, or in this case, you can set any sort of extender. You can set like a Dynamiscus, or you can set like a Canadia. Obviously, you could reverse these either way around, so you could do the Leanchoilia prior. You could do this as the Dynamiscus. So like, there's a lot of flexibility with this combo. Is basically what I'm trying to say. Then you can go ahead and banish for this copy of Ronin Totem, and this is obviously sent to your field. And then you can go ahead and link all 4 of these off into a Boral Sword. And then you can go ahead and use your Leanchoilia, targeting your Swap Frog to bring it back to the graveyard. Or obviously, this doesn't have to be the Leanchoilia, this can be a Dynamiscus. And then you chain your copy of Morella. In fact, I'm just going to leave this banished because it's unnecessary. Then you can use your copy of Ronin Totem to bring it back, and then you can overlay into a Toad. And if you haven't noticed, this is 8,200 points of damage. So this is really crazy. This is really flexible, especially because I didn't use all of my extenders to the fullest capacity. Obviously, if I went into another copy of Leanchoilia, then I could have brought this Swap Frog back, and I could have extended even further, so it would have been nuts. But in this case, this is basically just a simple like combo. Obviously, this Boral Sword doesn't have to be Boral Sword. You could turn this Boral Sword into an access code. You can turn this Boral Sword into a Appaloosa. Like, you have so many options with this that it just makes it insane. Like, 3 negates on an Appaloosa is nuts. So this was just a little like showcase that I wanted to show you. I think that this is actually really good, especially because like I think Morella is a really fantastic card because like it just naturally plays around evenly matched just fantastically. Because, you know, obviously, like I said earlier, if they go into the battle phase, then you just activate your Morella, set up your graveyard, and then if you have more back row, you don't care about it because then you just leave your Trap Trick, and then your Trap Trick can get you into your Paleozoic engine, which can now get you into tons of removal on your opponent's turn. So I think that this is absolutely insane. It just really helps the deck grind, especially because naturally like this deck doesn't really have like a really great like follow-up turn 2 if you don't have a Toad established. So I think that putting these Paleozoic monsters in that situation where you can just start pushing for damage just makes this deck like even more insane. So that's about it for this video. I just wanted to showcase that like this is just an OTK now. It's insane. So that's about it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys hopefully later on for I don't know, something else. But yeah.